Can you be forced to create a website for a cause or an idea that you don't agree with or believe in? Well, in Colorado, apparently you can. Joining us now, and this is what is happening in Colorado. Web designer and creator of 303 Creative, which is the area code for Denver, Lorie Smith, and her attorney, Jake Warner, who's with Alliance for Defending Freedom. Good to see you both, Lorie and Jake. Thank you so much. First off, I have to say, Lorie, how much I admire your spunk in this, because I was talking to our producer Rachel about this before we got started, because Jack Phillips, with whom we've spoken with him before, he actually baked your wedding cake, as I understand it, and you saw what Colorado was doing to Jack Phillips, and so you basically, correct me if I'm at all wrong, dared them to come after you because you knew at some point they were going to anyway, so you might as well be proactive. Is that accurate?
Well, I did see how the state of Colorado was treating Jack. 10 years ago, I started my business, and several years after that, looking around at the treatment of Jack Phillips, it was clear, hey, maybe the state could do this to me as well, which is why I have filed this lawsuit against the state of Colorado.
Yeah. And Colorado's their reasoning, and I'm going to talk to Jake about some of the legalities of this here in a moment. I mean, it almost seems like they're commandeering your labor. Do you feel, Lorie, like your labor is your own? I mean, under these types of laws or rulings, I mean, who actually owns your labor?
Well, what's interesting, so I design one-of-a-kind wedding websites and graphics with my clients. My clients range from small business owners, entrepreneurs, nonprofit agencies, but each and every one of my clients, what I create for them is truly art. It's a collaboration between the two of us. We're working to create an art piece, really. And while I'm happy to work with all people, there are certain messages I'm unable to promote through my business, which is why
Right.
I am challenging this law.
Right. I had asked Jack when he was on, I said, well, what if I asked you for a Halloween cake? And I went in and he said, well, and the same as you, he's, devoted in his beliefs, and he doesn't, people don't understand that. People of faith, it's not just, a Wednesday evening practice or a Sunday practice. I mean, it's your daily lifestyle. I mean, that's how you live. You are you are your faith. And when I was reading about your story, and when you make your websites, you are putting your time, your thought, your talent, your creativity into that. And it boggles my mind, and this is where I want to bring it over to Jake. It boggles my mind that the way that you read what Colorado is determining with these business owners is that they don't own their speech or their thought or their association or their work. And I'm just flummoxed as to how that can even be a standing at all. Jake, talk to me about this, because really that's ultimately how you all were going at this too.
It's a pretty radical idea. What's at stake in Lorie's case is this: does the government have the power to force a creative professional to express a message that goes against their deepest convictions? And recently, the 10th Circuit said that Colorado had that power to force Lorie to create custom websites celebrating ideas about marriage that she disagrees with. And that's wrong. That violates the First Amendment. But it's not just a freedom that Lorie enjoys. This is an important principle for every American. The government shouldn't have the power, for example, to force a website designer who identifies as LGBT to promote websites with messages about marriage that goes against their beliefs. So this is a critical freedom that every American should care about, and we're hopeful that the U.S. Supreme Court is going to weigh in on Lorie's case.
Yeah, and that would be a huge victory for business owners, because you're right. I mean, this, the door kind of swings both ways. Jake, I have one more question for you on the legal aspect of it. When the suit was filed with the Colorado Civil Rights Division and the Civil Rights Commission, it was, as I understand it, targeting a rule that really could be discriminatory, not just towards people of faith, but people who don't want their beliefs compromised. And the way that it was responded to was that, well, nothing has happened to her yet, basically, so she really can't complain about this. And then they wanted to turn around and then end up going after her anyway. I mean, give me the layman's terms of exactly how they responded when she realized that, oh wow, they're interpreting these rules as being discriminatory towards business owners, particularly if they're people of faith.
At this point, everyone knows how Colorado is interpreting this law. We've seen this for the past decade. Colorado has targeted Jack Phillips, trying to punish him twice for declining to create cakes with messages that go against his sincerely held religious beliefs. And Jack had to go all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court to vindicate his First Amendment freedoms the first time around. So what the state of Colorado has made clear is that people like Lorie, creative professionals in the state, are not safe if they want to create art consistently with their deepest beliefs. And this is something that should be of concern to everyone in Colorado, and indeed every American across the country.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, because it is, Lorie, this is artistic expression. This is an artistic creation. It's not as though it's just straight, manufacturing one thing after another. It's a very different type of work, not to belittle or demean in any way any other type, but this is, it's a creative industry. And there's a lot of thought, a lot of you that goes into your projects. Talk a little bit about that, because it very much is, it's your expression.
Absolutely. So every one of I talked a little bit about how the process before, and it's very similar to an artist who uses a paintbrush to paint on a canvas. I take that same approach. Every website, every graphic, every product I produce is a representation of me. And so it is deeply personal to me. And the process is not something that I take flippantly. It's an investment of my time and my resources and my talents, and I truly love it and enjoy it. And it is truly art. And I believe strongly that artists like myself should have the right to live and work freely, and be able to do that without punishment from the government, regardless of what their beliefs are, whether they're the same as mine or different from mine.
Right, and you would like to be able to operate your business without fear of being targeted also, I would imagine, Lorie.
Absolutely.
Oh, goodness. Jake, a question for you on this. Is it just me, or does it seem that there's a bunch of activists that are going around trying to find Christian business owners and then trying to find something to be offended over and then suing these business owners as a way to take a stand against people of faith? Is that, it seems awful to say it, but it seems like this is happening.
That's what we're seeing, is that government officials and activists around the country are weaponizing our legal system simply to punish people that they disagree with. And the case of Jack Phillips probably highlights that principle better than anything. You might remember Jack has an attorney who's coming after him. The attorney requested a custom pink and blue cake to celebrate a gender transition, but it wasn't the first time this attorney had called Jack. Back in 2012, the attorney had emailed Jack calling him a bigot and a hypocrite, and then had also asked Jack to create a custom cake depicting Satan smoking marijuana to correct the errors of Jack's thinking. So this is a big problem that we're seeing, and we need the Supreme Court to weigh in on this issue and say once and for all that the government doesn't have the power to force people to express messages that go against their core beliefs, because this is critical for the freedom of every American.